the whole concept of like, oh, every single step is determined and like it's all pre-programmed and all of that. I personally don't agree with it because I think that, well, then wouldn't there be some kind of record or knowledge somewhere where we'd all be like, you'd be able to tap into predicting exactly how everything happened in some way? Like there would be some kind of mechanism that you'd be able to tap back into to really ultimately see it play out. And like when I've
like the Akashic records,
but like I feel like that's not even like fully like I've heard of examples of like it really resonating with people and then it really not resonating with people. So, and this is also something in Vedic astrology where you have the Nadi astrology, and the whole thought is that you have a record of your soul. And it's,
wait, but that's crazy because they actually were able to like tell you quite a bit.
Yeah, but on the actual banana leaf itself is just a very simple record of you. It doesn't actually tell you your whole life story. And that's a big misconception because like the banana leaf is literally like this big. So like there's no way my entire life story is going to be written on there. But what I thought was really interesting is that there's very specific information written on there that only I would really be able to confirm. And I'm like, wow, that's how I know those pieces, like the fact that I have these sisters, that is something that was like destined for me,
absolutely.
You know? Like, and I've met people that have gone and gotten their readings done and whatnot. And like some people, it's so accurate, it's so spot on. And for other people, it's like so like not accurate. It's really kind of left for interpretation.
Oh, yeah. Like Aparna said hers wasn't that accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
but I think the bigger things are destined, right? Like your parents, for example.
Totally.
Your siblings.
Yeah.
But like, I think, I don't know, like when I think about like things that are more choice or like, for example, when I went to college, there were like many options for college.
Yeah.
Like I got accepted into multiple places. So it's like I could have gone any which way.
Yeah.
You know, and there probably is a timeline where like I went to NYU
instead
of where I actually went. And so.
Yeah. And I think that like, I mean, and that's why it's really interesting to kind of really look back and see like what events and people you just know were like destined.
Yeah.
And I think
that's soulmates for sure.
For sure. And like, I think about the time when I really wanted to go to business school. I was like so dead set.
Oh my God, that's so weird.
Oh my God, for years.
That is so not you.
For years, I was like, I really want to go to business school. I really want an MBA. And like, I think I tried for like, oh my God, it felt like 5 years, which is a long time.
It's a really long time.
It is a long time. And I just kept
oh my God, you're so different
pushing
now.
and pushing and like, thank God I gave up and was like, you know what? Maybe this just is not the right road.
But that's the other thing too. It's like, I truly believe that when you're like knocking on a door, trying to get in and the universe will not open it, it's because it's trying to redirect you. And you're not supposed to walk through that door. You're not supposed to actually be doing that thing.
Yeah.
Like you weren't actually meant to go to business school. And it's like, at the time, it's probably so frustrating. But then when you get past it and you look back, you're like, oh my God, thank God. Like that was absolutely the universe protecting me because you probably would have been really miserable.
Oh, there is a timeline out there where Sophie did not give up and she just kept grinding and grinding. And she is, you know, now $250,000 in debt from school.
Yikes. No,
like there's a timeline that happened. And like, thank goodness.
What if you went to business school? Would you still have become an astrologer?
I don't know. And I think that...
Because you probably wouldn't have been in New York. Yeah.
Well, what's really interesting is because I moved to India for a bit, and I still have an apartment and a car there. Before I really, really like decided I wanted to move there, I did research on like why, etc. But like I had made the decision, I'm going to move here, committed to it. And then I got this astrocartography reading done. And the woman didn't know anything about me.
Charis?
She looks at the map and she goes, you have a destiny in India. And I just remember thinking, what the hell? Oh,
wait, that's
what?
actually really crazy when that happens.
Yeah.
It is crazy when you have like some psychic or some, I don't know, woo-woo person who does some reading of some sort say something that is just like, how could you have known that? Like I've had like psychics. I mean, one of my good friends is like a profound psychic. And he told me like, you're going to meet someone named Michelle.
Yeah.
And like one of my best friends in Nashville is named Michelle. And I met her like 2 days later. You were with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't even like, he kept being like, there's someone important you're going to meet. Her name's Michelle. And I was like, no, I already have a friend, Michelle. Yeah. And then 2 days later, we go to this sound bath.
Yeah.
And we meet her.
Yeah.
It's so crazy when that happens. And you're like, how could you have pinpointed India when you didn't know, that I was studying Vedic astrology, that I was thinking about going to India? Like that stuff really blows my mind.
I do think in that business school, miserable Sophie business school timeline, like I probably would have gone. And like
it may have been like later though, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it would have taken you like 10 years. Like
we just don't know. But like I also believe that like that in that timeline, the events they happen, but in such a different order. And like it could be like such a small, minute shift of one thing that really trickles down. And like when we're watching the Pam Anderson documentary about how her like career unfolded, and I just was like, oh my God, it was like a moment of deciding I'm gonna go to this football game and wear this stupid shirt.
Oh yeah, that's
like,
how Pam Anderson got famous and discovered.
She
went
literally,
to a football game.
And she didn't even want to go to the football game.
But
she didn't even want to go.
That's
she remembers
what happens though. It's like, I mean, I think about moments that really changed my life, and it's so freaky to think about these important pivotal moments where if I had just made a different choice, like if I had not gone to the gym, if I had not gone here, if I had not met up with this friend, if I decided to not leave my house because I was tired, I would have never met some of the most important and pivotal people in my life, like, or had certain events happen, you know? And sometimes too, like you'll meet someone and you won't think it's like a really big deal or a big connection. And then somehow like years and years and years later, that person ends up being really important. Like I remember I met this woman in LA in 2016. I was a really big fan of her. She had a spiritual blog, and we didn't really like stay in touch. I don't even think she was like following me on Instagram, but like I met her once and we had a bunch of mutual friends. And then, you know, fast forward years later in 2019, I got a random email in my inbox from this woman I had only met one time, okay, being like, hey, I think this is the millennial numerologist that you're looking for. And she connected me to my book agent, which is how I got my book deal. So it's like this person that I didn't know was going to be like so important on my journey ended up being the person who was like this bridge to me getting, you know, this huge opportunity in this book deal, which like completely changed my life, you know? And so that's another like really interesting thing to kind of contemplate is like, these people and like the webs of like you meet this person and then through that person you meet like 10 other people who then lead you to the big you know? It's so interesting. And again, it's all these like timeline shifting and all these people coming in and out.
Yeah. And it's you know, and I think that there is some comfort in knowing that you can do everything you can, and sometimes it really is, you know, these outside factors do end up influencing that timeline because maybe you were supposed to meet that person earlier, but because they, you know, they were influenced by their family member or job or whatnot. And like, that's, in my opinion, that's a little comforting knowing like I'm doing the best I can. And like, I'm just keeping my faith that like everything that is meant for me will eventually circle back. Cause that's like a long time and a lot of different webs of people coming through before that book deal happened. And like, it's ultimately, you know, really there's some kind of cathartic safety in feeling and knowing that, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I see that a lot in romantic relationships where I'll work with clients and they'll be like, where's my person? Where's my person? And I'm like, yo, your perfect person, the perfect match for you on this planet could right now be going through a divorce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you just got to hold on, wait a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then, 6 months from now, you'll be with that person. But I think a lot of people think like, if it's not here right now, then something is wrong. Like something like, why can't I manifest this? Is something off? Am I out of alignment? But it's like our timelines are connected to other people's timelines. We're all connected to each other.
Yeah.
So it's like timing is actually really important.
Yeah. And timing is also like, I think one of the most difficult, challenging concepts for us to actually process.
We feel it. We feel time.
Yeah.
And sometimes time feels really fast. And sometimes it feels so slow. Oh my God. It's like when you're heartbroken, time is like moving like molasses.
Yeah.
And then when you're like falling in love and happy and, it's like you don't even feel time and it goes so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's why I always say that, like, the best thing we can do is take every single moment and every single step and like appreciate the now, because you won't be able to like really relive that in the same kind of way. And it's really funny because I always tell my clients the way that you remember the past is how you see the future. And it's so true, because oftentimes, like, I'm a pretty optimistic person. So for me, like, everything in the past is like, that wasn't that bad.
Right.
That wasn't that bad.
Because you got through it.
That wasn't that bad. And then like, I look at my journals and I'm like, oh my God.
You're like, I was
miserable. Like, I was like so depressed. Like, what? Yeah. And I think it's really important to really make sure that at the end of the day, like, the present moment that you have for yourself, and not wishing and hoping like, oh, if only I could control that time, blah, 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 all that. That's not going to get you anywhere, So,
but also you don't know if like a delay is for the absolute best.
Oh, totally. Totally.
Right? Like, you don't know if like you want something now, but you're actually waiting for like something that's so much better.
For sure. And I think that, I really do believe that timing is so important, and that the right people, do come into your life at the right moment. And I see this happen a lot with clients where you orbit each other I had one friend who, she had known her man for like 15 years. They had been in the same friend circle for 15 years. That's a decade and a half. That's a long time. That's a teenage adult. And they just were in off and on relationships with other people. And I just don't think that they were in the right heart space, mind space to have that contact, And so and they like had heard of each other, but not really, like they just had never met, oddly enough, even though they were in the same friend circle. Yeah. And like stuff like that happens all the time. And so I think the best thing that we could all do is really just focus on what you can control, which is your own thoughts, your own actions, and doing the best that you can.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of all you can do in life, right? It's like, wake up every day and like, did I do the best I could to the best of my abilities with the knowledge that I have? Then, that's it. Like, you got to leave it all in the field. Like, that's all that we can really do.
And I think that with timelines and understanding timelines shifting and why do timelines shift, I think that there is, that destiny versus free will, big, argument there really kind of goes into why we do experience timeline shifts and timeline shiftings. And like, I think in a different video, you're talking about deja vu and how it's because you already had seen that timeline. And then like,
and you consciously chose
it. And that, in my opinion, I think that really resonates with me, because I feel like I'm someone where I'll get so many different visions of things planning out. And when I experience deja vu, it feels so surreal, and it feels so, it's almost like a weird comforting feeling too, of like, oh,
Like I've been here before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that timeline shifting, timeline jumping, I think is really here to kind of serve us in the best ways possible, you know?
Of course. That's all we have, right? Our choices that are navigating. We're navigating this planet through our choices, which are creating these timelines. And there's so many different paths we can take. I mean, I think, you know, astrology is a great tool to kind of like see the energy and the time that's around us, and same with numerology. But it's like at the end of the day, we get to design our lives the way that we want.
Yeah.
And so you got to like just go for it and not take things for granted or like wait for something to show up. Like we have to initiate things into our lives and into the collective.
Yeah. Any other thoughts around timelines and timeline
I feel
shifting?
like we covered we covered it all. We covered enough. I mean, yeah, I think for anyone who's interested in like looking through their timelines and like thinking about like where's the path that I should take, I would say explore numerology and astrology.
Yeah.
You know, because that will say like you can look at, you know, oh, my north node's in the 11th house. Okay, cool. That tells me that my destiny is aligned with community, right? So, you know, looking at those different esoteric tools to help us kind of navigate things is super, super helpful.
Yeah.
And also it's just fun.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I definitely agree, because I was just thinking about a conversation I was having with a client whose significant other is about to go through a Rahu Ketu period. Like, poor thing was like so nervous about the whole thing. And like, the tools are not here to scare us. I think that the tools, if anything, I was excited. I was like, oh my God, this is a really huge opportunity for a big shift and a big change. Like, you should be excited. Like, change is here so that we can grow.
Yeah.
And so
it's just humans don't really like change very much.
Yeah. And so when we look at, you know, oh, I don't want to like look into these tools or really think about the timeline I'm on, it's almost a way to encourage us to expand beyond what we think is best for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.